everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Charles with ToolKit for Elementor, and in this video I'm super excited to show you version 1.1 and all the new features that are now built into ToolKit. Now before we get started, I wanted to show you guys the version of ToolKit right before this update, which was version 1.0.4. And in this version you'll recall that we had just introduced the Widget Manager, which was an easy way for Elementor users to get rid of unused WordPress and Elementor widgets from inside the editor, as well as getting rid of dashboard widgets on the backend that you didn't necessarily need. We also had a tab called Unload WordPress Bloat, and this area would later become the new code manager in version 1.1. One of our crowd favorites was the syncer functionality, which enabled you to easily connect to your other Elementor sites using ToolKit and easily import your saved templates on those sites. Now this framework has actually been completely overhauled in version 1.1 and is now based on its own API framework, so you can easily generate your own syncer keys to securely and easily create unique keys for other users to connect to your site. And of course, we had our themeless functionality. And in this particular version, when you enable themeless and your WordPress theme framework was disabled, when you went under Appearance and Themes, you'll see that this area has been disabled. Whenever you click Awesome, Let's Proceed, this actually took you to the old theme builder. In the new version of ToolKit, we've added a way to detect if you're using Elementor 3.0 and above, or if you were on an older version of Elementor, and it'll take you instead to the appropriate theme builder. And of course, we have our toolbox, and in this particular version, we had our code manager and not too much else. You'll see in the new version 1.1 that this whole area has been radically overhauled with some really cool features that I think you guys are going to love. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the new version of ToolKit right here, which is version 1.1. And I think the first thing you guys will notice is a brand new UI. It's a little bit cleaner and more well organized, especially with all the new features that we've included in this version. Like the new code cleaner, where we have 3 new tabs that allow users to easily get rid of unused common WP core files, items from your source code, and if you're a WooCommerce user, we've included ways to help reduce WooCommerce bloat. For example, by disabling all WooCommerce scripts across your entire site for specifically non-WooCommerce pages and posts, which is a super awesome way to help make those WooCommerce sites a little bit more lightweight for you. We still have our minification and combined CSS and JavaScript functionality here, as well as the ability to exclude specific files that you want to keep from being minified. And of course, we have our lazy load functionality. Now, the cool thing about this is in WordPress 5.5, they introduced native browser-based lazy loading within WordPress core. However, a lot of users are reporting that they're not really seeing a benefit from this quite yet, because a lot of modern browsers such as Chrome still have super high viewport threshold settings for this. For example, with Chrome, some of these things can go all the way up to 8,000 pixels. Now, if you're a performance geek like myself, I've included a link to this where you can check out Chromium's source code, where they'll show you within the browser settings viewport thresholds for lazy loading within the browser, and you'll notice that some of these are still set to a pretty high threshold, which is why we left it up to our users to select which lazy loading method they prefer. By default, WordPress's default method is enabled, but the moment you select any of ToolKit's lazy loading methods, it'll override and replace the browser-based lazy loading method in WP Core. Now, I'll show you in just a moment in Toolbox where we've included a way for you to specifically select which lazy loading method you want to use. But we've also made it so that if you use or enable any of our lazy loading methods, you'll automatically update this particular setting on the back end, so you don't have to worry about accidentally loading 2 different ways of lazy loading on all of your images. And of course, we still have our miscellaneous tweaks for Apache users, features like gzip compression and entity tags and things like that. For other users that may be using Nginx or Lightspeed, of course, we've included documentation and settings that you can include on your server config files to enable these. But the thing is most of these are actually already enabled for Nginx and Lightspeed users, so you really won't need a lot of these features. A great example of that is gzip compression. If you are an Nginx user, you're most likely actually using Brotli compression, which is faster than gzip anyways. In this version of ToolKit, we've made it super easy for users to create your own syncer key, which you can then share or use to connect to your other ToolKit and Elementor sites. Once connected, you'll be able to download any of your previously created and saved Elementor templates with a simple click. So let's go ahead and take a look at this function in action. First, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to one of my live sites and click Copy Key. Then I'm going to go to my destination site, go to Connect to a site, put in that API key and click Connect. And you'll notice that in just a couple of seconds, you're able to access all of my previously created or saved Elementor templates on that site. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly import a few so we can play around real quick. The header, the footer, pricing grid, and then we'll import maybe one more template, which will be the home banner. And these are templates that I've already created on this site, and once I import it into my new site, the beautiful thing about this is I've already spent time optimizing everything for mobile and desktop and tablet, and those settings come in with your Elementor template, so it gets you a really nice head start whenever you're creating brand new sites. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our new Theme Manager tab. In this tab, we've relocated our themeless functionality as one of a few features that we plan on releasing over the next couple of versions of ToolKit. Our goal is to have a series of time-saving features here that'll help you work with Elementor's global styling and theme builder framework. And we should have more information on those features in upcoming updates, so stay tuned. Now let's take a look at Toolbox. This area is definitely one of the areas that I'm most excited about because we've included quite a few new awesome features. Starting with our code manager, we still have the ability to insert code into the header, opening body tag, and into the footer. Now, these are great for things like Google Analytics, Facebook Pixel, Google Tag Manager, and other things like that. Now, we've added a new feature that allows you to insert code into your WordPress admin dashboard footer. This is great if you're using live chat widgets or services and wanted to offer your clients some form of live chat support from within the WordPress dashboard. So let me give you a great example of that. This is a service called Live Chat. There's other ones out there like Zendesk and quite a few other ones, but essentially a lot of these services have an embed code that you can simply copy and then paste into the footer of any site that you'd like to display this code into. So what you can do now is go into Toolkit, go straight into Code Manager, and insert that code right into your admin dashboard footer. And this is going to specifically load your chat support widget inside of the dashboard of your site. So you'll notice now whenever I go, now I have my live chat widget available right within my dashboard. Now it's as simple as just copying and pasting that right into Toolkit. Now let's take a look at the all-new Access Manager in Toolkit. In this area, you can easily share secure dashboard access with other users by creating a link for them. You can also select and customize what areas of Toolkit are accessible by other users. So for example, I can choose to hide Toolkit on the plugins page. And though I'm okay with other administrators having access to all of Toolkit's features, I can hide the My License tab from them and restrict that to only my current user. So let me go ahead and save settings. And then let's go ahead and create a quick user access link so I can show you how that works as well. So I'm going to go to user access link, create new user link. I'm just going to simply fill out these details here. Now you'll notice that since I have WooCommerce installed in this test environment, I now have a field available here called WooCommerce. I can choose to hide that from this particular user. I'm going to select the user role of administrator and make this link valid for 1 week. And maybe I can also choose to hide the plugins page or area as well. So I'm going to say no access to plugins. And generate my secure access link. And just like that, there you go. You can click copy link. And from there, you can share it with another user. You can also test this link too. So let me go ahead and open up a incognito browser and paste this into the browser. And you'll notice right away that in this particular environment, I'm logged in as the administrator. However, this particular user doesn't have access to the plugins area or WooCommerce, but they still have access to all the other areas on the back end. So this is great if you want to provide admin dashboard access to a support member or team, or maybe even Elementor support, but don't necessarily want them to be able to see all of your WooCommerce orders and customer information, because maybe that's not relevant to their job at hand. So, super useful tool. This is actually one of the features that I use every day, it seems like these days. And I'm sure you guys are going to love it as well. So let me go ahead and exit out of this environment and refresh. Now, since that link was just used, this will tell you an update on this area, when the most recent access via that link was. It will also give you some good information in terms of how many days or how much time is left before that link expires. If you click settings, it'll load all the settings for that access link above. And should you choose to actually edit that access and save changes, it's going to refresh and regenerate a new secured token, which will allow that user to come back in and view the new area that you just enabled. Now, at any time, of course, you can choose to delete this key, which will immediately render that particular key useless, so no one else can use that ever again. Now, WP Core Manager is also a super useful area in Toolbox, and something that we really thought about, and I'm glad that we're able to get this incorporated in this version of Toolkit, especially with WordPress 5.5 updates. So the very first thing that you'll notice is we have a tab called WP Core Tweaks, and this allows you to modify the core settings of WordPress. At least for now, we just have two main ones: the lazy loading preference, as well as the ability to disable WordPress 5.5 its new default sitemap generation capability. So go ahead and click save. And you'll remember from an earlier part of this video, when we were in Booster and we enabled lazy load here, because we enabled lazy load, this particular feature of Toolkit was automatically updated to Toolkit lazy loading as your preference. Now, automatic updates, of course, I'm sure many of you guys know one of the big things that came with WordPress 5.5 was automatic updates for core plugins and themes. We've made it super easy to disable all of these things. So actually, before I do this, let me show you what my plugins page currently looks like. Get out of here and go to plugins. And you notice because I'm on WordPress 5.5, you now have these automatic updates available right here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go to Toolkit and disable automatic updates. And this is super useful, obviously, because unless you've actually tested it on a staging server, you can't be 100% sure that that plugin update that just happens automatically doesn't also happen to cause your site to crash or introduce new bugs or conflicts. So I'm going to go ahead and disable all those. And now you'll notice when I actually go back to the plugins list, because I disabled automatic plugins, it all says automatic updates have been disabled. Super easy, great time saver, and I'm sure for a lot of users that ran into issues with Elementor 3.0 updates or WordPress updates or anything related to automatic updates going through, you can already appreciate how this can be a lifesaver. Now let's look at background tasks. And in this area, you can actually optimize some of your WordPress processes that happen normally in the background. This includes your WordPress Heartbeat API. And this is actually a pretty complex topic, so without going too far in depth into it. If you want to learn more about it, I've included learn more links for each of these features. So I can actually customize these, post revision limit. So by nature, maybe I only store the last 5 post revisions, so I don't clutter my database with a whole bunch of revision drafts. Then I can also modify my autosave intervals and customize this to maybe every 2 minutes instead of every 1 minute and save. Awesome. These are great things to help optimize your server resources, and especially for those users that are on a shared hosting environment, this can be super helpful in speeding some things up in the background for you. Now, so go ahead and move on to the widget manager. I'm sure a lot of ToolKit users are already familiar with the widget manager, and in this particular update, we went ahead and did a small little UI update, and in future ToolKit versions, we'll probably implement easier ways of organizing all of these widgets and then extend out support for a lot of the common Elementor widget add-ons that are out there. But at least for now, you're still able to deregister and remove all of your unused Elementor widgets from the Elementor editor. And we do that by actually deregistering the widget itself. So be advised that when you disable it via the widget manager, not only is that widget removed from the Elementor editor, but if you're using that widget in any areas of your site, that widget's also going to stop working because the actual widget itself has been deregistered. So let me show you what that means. I'm going to go ahead and I have a test page set up already. This is straight out of the Elementor template library. So if you add a new template in Elementor, it's actually the first one, so I just went and inserted that one. And you'll notice that on this particular template, they're using a heading widget, they're using some social icons, they're using an image widget. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the backend and widget manager. And I'm just going to go ahead and disable some of these real quick. And disable those widgets. And on the front end here, if you just click refresh, you'll notice that not only are the widgets no longer available in the editor, but actually they no longer work on the front end either. They're actually removed. So where is this useful? If you're using a variety of Elementor add-ons and you find yourself having a bunch of widgets kind of flooding your editor, and you don't really use most of them, you can use this to get rid of a lot of them and clean that editor up a bit and help things load a little bit quicker for you. Let's go ahead and check out the dashboard widgets tab of the widget manager. And if you're like me, not only do you hate bloat, but you also hate cluttered dashboards. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but over the past couple of versions of WordPress, I've started to notice that the dashboard is becoming more and more flooded with all these different widgets. And historically, I know a lot of users have just gone to screen options and unchecked the areas that they don't necessarily want to see. But this method doesn't necessarily apply to all users that have access to your dashboard per se. And so I know some users have used other plugins or even code snippets to help completely deregister and dequeue some of these dashboard widgets. With ToolKit, we've made it super easy to actually take care of all this right from within the widget manager by going into the dashboard widgets area and easily disabling and deregistering any of those dashboard widgets that you don't necessarily want to have available on the front end. So let me go ahead and quickly disable a lot of these. And we'll leave up, let's say, at a glance and site health status. Click disable selected widgets. And now if you go back to the dashboard, you'll notice that the dashboard looks a lot cleaner. But not only does it look a lot cleaner, if you go to screen options, those options have actually been removed from the back end. So you don't have to worry about other users being able to see your WooCommerce widgets or sales data or any other widgets that they don't necessarily need to see. Now, last but not least, let's go ahead and take a look at an additional feature that we've added into version 1.1, and you'll be able to see that under the My License tab. You'll notice from here that there's a new subtab called Data Handling, which gives our users a little bit more granular control over which plugin data to remember or to remove when you uninstall and remove ToolKit. Now, our default setting is whenever you uninstall and remove ToolKit to remove all of our plugin data. But we realize that there may be some instances where you want to remember some of the data. For example, if you're just temporarily removing ToolKit for testing purposes. To do so, you can either select to remember all settings, or you can select to remember some settings. And from here, you can specifically configure which items you'd like to remember. So for example, booster settings and maybe your scan history, but maybe you want to remove all your license data and toolbox settings. So go ahead and click Save Setting to apply those changes. And there you go. Well guys, that concludes our walkthrough of version 1.1 of ToolKit. And without further ado, it is with great pleasure that I get to announce that ToolKit 1.1 is now available for download. Thanks guys, and have a great weekend.